How's it going, Dave?
Hello, Tina. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. My first question, you worked on both Napoleon and Gladiator II, and Napoleon famously was inspired by the Roman Empire. Was there any unexpected similarities in the two that came about?
They were just both stressful jobs. That's all there is to say about it. It's like they were. No, not. I mean, not really. I suppose just some of the language. I suppose it's. But not that I particularly noticed. No, it was just all the same crew and the same director and the same. Sorry, my cat was jumping. But the No, there wasn't. No, we were all trying to kind of move on a bit mentally from Napoleon because it was a very difficult job. And then Gladiator was very hard, but it was kind of more linear and more, we knew, it was just less complex, I suppose.
Mhm. And you created 150 different gladiator outfits, which is quite impressive. They all have a very similar, like, chest plate. I'm probably not the correct term of skirt-ish outfit. And then like some helmets. So did you find that you were drawn to like you really enjoyed making the chest plates or the helmets or when to get through the 150?
I suppose it's not really. They weren't all. It was. It's always the helmets. The gladiator helmets are always the coolest thing, aren't they? And then they have very cool scale sleeves. I don't think I what we're trying to make is there's types of gladiator. So there's about eight general types of gladiator, and each type wears a certain type of armor because of the style of fighting that they're trained to do. So some of them don't wear helmets at all. Some of them, so it's that kind of thing. So I think what we were trying to do was get these kind of types of gladiators across in the film a bit, so that you'd have the guy with the trident wears something on his upper shoulder called a rotarius, but he doesn't wear a helmet. He wears a headband. That's what we were trying to do. But it's always the helmets are always the coolest thing. On most costume films, be it Star Wars to Gladiator, it's always about the helmet. The helmet's always the first thing to get designed, I would
Yeah.
say.
My favorite is the masks, the metal face coverings, and I was curious if you could
Love
talk a little bit about those and like the what they historically symbolize, if they have a symbol.
they are a real thing, and their historians all differ as to when they were worn, but they seem to be worn by a lot of cavalry
Mm,
units. I don't know how they would have seen through those eyes while riding a horse, but it seems to be the way that they're cavalry helmets, and they're a kind of they're like a dress. They're added to the helmet for dress occasions.
mm,
Is a lot of people's theory. And so we did them for a lot of Praetorian guards. You'll see them behind Pedro at the beginning of the film on the ships.
mm.
So whenever they're kind of standard bearers or um, they've got some kind of ceremonial role, we try to give them the masks. And then when they have the fight actually at Thraix's mansion, I use them all there inside. So there's some guards in there and they all have the masks on. I think it just gives them this great kind of faceless
Yeah.
stormtroopery look, that's sort of quite good for.
Yeah. I was reading in another interview that you did that the goal of costume designing is to make the actors feel like they are comfortable and wearing their own clothes, but I feel like a lot of people have never worn Roman armor before. So how do you make these very ancient clothes feel like they're just, Paul or like his regular clothes?
I suppose you want them to feel like it's right for their character. That's whether they've ever been a Roman general before or not, but I think they have to feel happy and right in it, don't they? And I think with Paul, he had that kind of peasant armor at the beginning of the film, which is this kind of woven, kind of very not cheap for us, most expensive armor to make, but it was kind of woven, kind of peasant armor in a way, formed into a cuirass, and then later he progresses to the kind of to like Maximus armor,
Mhm.
and then you want them you just don't want to put a costume on people and there's your costume. You want them to kind of work with you, and they want to feel like they feel right in it, and I think it helps their performance. And if they're not happy in a costume, that's the kind of worst outcome. So
Yeah. Why was Paul's costume the most expensive, the earlier
because
one?
there was so much hand making, it was like individual strands of leather kind of
Uh,
put out onto a board, and then then shaped into a cuirass, then bound. So it was all done by hand. We had to do 8 sets of them. So the amount of man out, the labor and all that kind of thing that goes into that is a lot. So
Yeah.
that's
Um, you mentioned Star Wars a little bit. You've spent quite a long time in Star Wars, and I know that you love World War One history in terms of making costumes for it. Do you prefer to have the freedom of Star Wars, or do you enjoy kind of recreating historical pieces more?
mm, I do like a bit of recreating. I mean, it's kind of trying to do the kind of best version of recreation that you can, or I like both. But
Yeah.
yeah, I do like the First World War. It's terrible. But yes, it's good. But yeah, but Star Wars, they're always based in something. You can always look at the kind of the
Yeah.
references and the footprint of where certain costumes come from, even from the original Star Wars
Yeah.
films.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you so much for your time, Dave. The costumes were really beautiful in the movie.
thanks very much. Thanks, Gene.
Thank you.
All right, bye bye.